Well, okay, late night, and I'm here. Uh, where do I begin at? I guess I'll do like everybody else and say hello to the people that I see up here right now. Maybe there'll be some here later on. To Miguel Wallace, my moderator over on my other channel, my music channel. Thank you. Let me say something to those who come up here late. I'm deciding to do this tonight because I've been watching YouTube for a little over 4 years, 5 years now, and I see how some people come on and, with my things going on YouTube, being here, then becoming a content creator and doing things my way, trying to do things my way, that is. Um, I've had my ups and downs, my ins and outs, my arguments with people here on YouTube about myself, my age, and everything else, and all that good shit. And then when I first came up here, let me start there. When I first came up here, I came up here as myself. I didn't come up as a troll, which a lot of people sometimes seem to hate, but they love. I didn't come up here under false pretenses with my age. I didn't come up here to really degrade and just mess up people's lives and stuff like I've seen going on for the past 4 years. Now, I've said I don't have IG. I don't use IG. I have it, but I don't use it. I don't post it out there because I found out through using Facebook, hell, anybody could get in touch with you. Anybody could look you up and go to find out about you, a little bit about you. They know your friends know you, so they become acquaintance with you. Uh, anyway, any old who, I proceeded to drop on a panel one night, and I'm not going to mention their name because right now I'm in litigation about that. And things rolled from there, snowballed from there. I decided to listen to some people and say, hey, why don't you do content? You have this, you have that voice, you have that word for YouTube. You can get on here and tell things and do things. But in the interim, it kind of backfired because, like I said, being new and trying to create content, I didn't have any content. I didn't want to do like everybody else was doing. I didn't want to cuss women out. I didn't want to cuss the men out. But I just wanted to be me, come up here and have some fun. Well, good evening, good late, early morning, Uncle Claude. I had seen you over there earlier at Sophie's, and you guys, I'll talk about all that stuff too. But I've seen things here on YouTube, the way that we act toward each other as men, women, gay, bi, trans, and everything else as black people in a community or racial people in this so-called beefing community. My history was told, and my ideas of things, doing the things my way, even when I started out with the music. Now I'm saying now that things are a little bit lax. People are playing more music. They're getting on here doing their own thing. When I started out, I was doing it, getting knocked off or getting, it didn't go through certain time. But as time went on, everything got a little better, and I'm glad that I am where I am now as DJ Will here on these YouTube streets. But in the interim, I forgot about myself trying to appease and please people. I was doxxed or ridiculed and talked about. And Let me tell you, I've been this way all my life when it came to the way I sounded. I told people about myself, what happened to me, and the stories went, stretched, lied, just like anything else. You tell one story and people will tell it another way. So let me start out by saying I am not going to be, don't say I dox myself on here or any damn thing else. Like a lot of other people that have came out and told their truths, other people have taken it and stretched it. So if you want to get on here after you hear this or after you receive it or however other people want to make of it, you want to throw in a lie, just remember, I'm going to become the one person on YouTube you're going to really get to hate because you're not going to lie on me. You're not going to get out here and try to ridicule me because I'm going to tell you about myself. This is going to be like a series. This is my, you might as well say, last YouTube will and testament if you want to. And no, I'm not dying. I don't plan on dying or anything else, but I just want people to know that you can't do things to people and you don't expect them not to react or say crazy things back to you. Good evening, Vibrant Love, with that smile turned upside down, my dear. I just seen you. Thank you for coming up. But what I want to, where do I start at? With my history and not this YouTube rhetoric shit. Like I said before, I am a, I am a son of an immigrant father who was a full-blooded Jamaican born in Kingston, Jamaica. My mother is a black woman. When I was born in the year 1950. And people doing their arithmetic now, I can tell you I'm 74 years old. My dad was 45 years old when I was born, and my mom was 31. And I looked at that. It's on my birth. I looked at the age difference, and it was 14. It's 14 years difference. So if you guys want to say my daddy robbed the cradle, you go right on ahead. But you got to remember, uh, back in those days, as y'all want to call it, of history, um, older men and younger women married each other. Now, if you want to dig further, which I dug further and found out about my family tree, my mom was born in Mississippi. So, how did my mom and dad get to meet? Him being a Jamaican man and her from Mississippi. Her family moved her up here to Chicago in the early 30s and 40s. And she was raised in Chicago. Her dad brought her up here. My mom met my dad when she had a kid. Yeah, my mom had a child. He's my oldest brother. Uh, his name I'm not going to say because, like I said, I'm going to leave names. Some of the names I'll leave out because if you come up here and I know that you went and looked up everything, you figured out everything, or you're doxing, okay? So just be mindful that I'm watching you on this too. But anyway, my dad, being a Jamaican, was not stern. He wasn't stern. He was glad to be here in this country because when he came over, he was like 5 years old. 5 years of his life. When he reached the age of 10, his aunt, which was a Jamaican woman, was sent back to her country because they claimed, now this is a story of my history, my aunt was charged with prostitution. So back then in the 40s, when you were charged with that kind of stuff, they deported people. They didn't keep them. They deported them. My dad was taken away from my aunt. She got deported, and he was raised by foster parents. He told us some wild stories about being in foster care, and he never got over the treatment as being a young black Jamaican boy raised by different people from pillar to post, because back then foster care was just for the money. It wasn't for the love of that child. People raised kids for the money. They didn't care how they looked, how they dressed, or anything. At the age of 16, he went to the Merchant Marines, where he himself was in service, and he met another woman. Yes, I come to find out later I did. They're both gone now. I'm getting ahead of myself on the story, but anyway, he had a son, and we knew about it after we were old enough to be taught things. My mom, when my dad met her, she had a son. My oldest brother, he will always be my brother, even though we had different fathers. And my father treated him just like his son because he loved my mom. Myself being born 8:30 in the morning on my birth certificate, I hear people on YouTube talking about their time when they were born and the year and all that and what they put on our birth certificates. I heard an interesting conversation that Miss well, I'm not going to call it Miss. I'm just going to do like I've been doing. Yaya had with Lady Nika, and they were talking about the things that were put on their birth certificate. Lady Nika said she was called colored. On mines in the 50s, we were Negroes. Uh, my dad was written down on my birth certificate as Jamaican, but he was also Negro. My mom, like I said, born in Mississippi, she was also Negro. And me being born as their child, I was Negro. But no matter what happened throughout my course of growing up, we were always considered Negroes. Even my dad, being a Jamaican man, he spoke fluent Jamaican. He was born in Kingston, Jamaica. He spoke fluent Jamaican. Uh, he never went back to his country because he became a citizen after he grew up some kind of way, and he didn't apply for dual citizenship because he was so mad with his family, and he told us about it that he never went back home. As a child, he had his bitterness. I am the eldest of my father's children, being born by my mother, that is. I have two other brothers and two other sisters. My mom it would have been, what, there's five of us, it would have been seven, but my mom had a miscarriage with twins. And trust me, people, when mom was going to have those twins, my dad was in his 60s. Yeah, 60s. Dad was in his 60s. So far as I hear people on YouTube and a lot of people talk, I heard them today talking about old folks and sex and old folks and this. Yeah, my parents were sexually active, even though my dad was 14 years older than my mama, and she was still fertile at her age. Daddy was in his 60s, mama was in her 50s when she lost a set of twins. But anyway, that's way ahead of what I grew up being. As a child myself, I was raised during a time when there was segregation. And when I mean segregation, we weren't allowed to do things so freely as we are today, so freely as we are today, such as getting out, marrying people out of your race, being black, marrying people out your race. Yeah, they had couples that were mixed couples, married differently, but they were also treated differently too. You know, uh, mostly when a white man married a black woman, it was a trophy thing for him. And then 9 times out of 10, he already had a wife. And black women scuffled all their lives that I seen growing up during the 50s and 60s. They scuffled, and they if they didn't have a man because of welfare, like I said, uh, she would get do the best she could. That's why I can't fault my mom for anything that happened to her in her life because she was an abused woman. She was abused not by my dad, but by her first husband, who, believe it or not, happened to be of Italian descent. I'm not gonna give y'all his last name because my she had a son, which is my oldest brother, like I said, loved him to death. His daddy was Italian. So that goes to show you, my mother, you're wondering, well, why did your mother marry an Italian man? Because when they moved here, it was on the north side of Chicago, near Grand Avenue, and all this good stuff. And somehow or another, her her brother, which was my uncle, was associated with the mafia. Well, let's put it back like that. And they were Italians, so this Italian guy took a liking to my mom at an early age. She had a child by him. He had to marry her because that was what he was told to do. But he didn't like my mother. He didn't love my mother. He didn't care for my mother. And my brother, since he had a boy, he didn't treat him as bad, but he didn't treat him good. But he did take him around to the things that he was doing, the people, the Italian people, and he was black. My brother was black, but they tried to teach him Italian things, the Italian way. Like I said, my mom was abused, so she was sitting out on the front porch one morning, and my dad just happened to be walking up the streets. Mind you, now, he's a big Jamaican man, young guy. He seen my mother crying as a black woman, and he asked her what was wrong. She told him her story, and she told this story to us as kids after our dad passed away, that he told her to pack her bags, get her child, which was my brother, because she was sitting on the porch and she had been abused that day, and he told her, come go with me. And from that day forward, I blessed that man for taking my mama out of that situation, because I don't know where I would have been now. I don't know where my mama would have been now, if anything. But God has a way of blessing people. That's all I'm going to say about that, because the rest is history. She divorced him, married my dad. They had 4 other children besides me. They stayed together for over 37 years before my dad passed away first. And in that 37 years, my dad taught me a hell of a lot of things. And the one thing he taught me, really, that stuck to me in my heart, was that no matter what you do as a man, as a black man, You stand up for yourself. You don't have to be out there cussing people out, talking crazy to them, but you stand up for yourself. You take care of your family. You have friends. If they treat you good, you treat them good. And above all, enjoy life. Now, we lived in Chicago from the time I was born up until I was 13 years old. When I was 13 years old, we moved out to what we call the country. It was only 65 miles south of Chicago, a little place called Hopkins Park, Illinois. And if anybody knows about anything with that country living, Hopkins Park, Illinois, back in the day of 63, well, really it was before, well, I was 13, so I was 60, it was 63. If anybody knows about Hopkins Park, Illinois, they did a thing about it years ago about it being one of the poorest rural countries in America. But let me tell you, people, it's gotten that way since I moved away from it back in the well, late 70s, early 80s. But between the time I was 13 up until I left there, it was a beautiful country area. Everybody did know everybody. It was farming area. Black people owned their own stuff there. It was a black community, really. Uh, People and kids, I'm not going to say they got along all the time, but like any rural area, you had your haves and you had your have nots. We were not a have not, and we were not the haves. We were in between. But anyway, like I said, when Daddy moved me out there, it took me from the city of Chicago to live out there in a place called Hopkins Park, Illinois, Pembroke Township. We went from city lights, running water, streetcars, L trains, transportation to get around, to a two-bedroom house owned by a guy named Mr. Strong. My dad knew him. How did he find him? I don't know. But he rented that house, and when he moved us out there, it took us 2 days, really, 3 days, really. But at 13 years old, I moved into a house with, get this, no electricity, no running water. The bathroom was outside, and like I said, it was country. It was there at night. It got dark. You could, on a clear night, you could see the stars. Something I never seen in the city. And I took to that later on. That'll be how I feel about things later on. But it was such a cultural shock until, yeah, it took me a while to adjust. But I had fun. Let me tell you, I had some of the best times living out there in that rural area. Eventually, we got our lights and our water and stuff like that because Daddy, he bought a piece of land, a parcel of land out there. Our family he owned 5 acres of land, and he put up. First, we were living in a trailer. That got to be what he really didn't want. So he had a home built for my mother, mind you, all the time. And he worked. He worked. My dad was a truck driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we loved living out there in the country. Mind you, once we got our house, we had a well dug. You had well water, you had the fresh water coming up out the ground. You would have to dig your wells. We had a toilet and we had electricity. So, how did I feel? I felt good. I felt good. Friends, we made a lot of friends. My mom also still had her brother, which is my uncle. He was still living at the time. He would come out there. He was such a, I don't know what you would call him, uh, hip daddy, a cool man, but he wore Stacy Adams shoes. I don't know if the old timers remember the Stacy Adams. I remember him good. And he wore what we call shark skin suits. To me, he was one of the sharpest dressers out there for me because that was my uncle, my only uncle. Uh, he would bring us stuff as kids growing up, bring us our toys and stuff, and Mama and her sisters, which she really didn't have any sisters, but she before we left Chicago, she that's another thing. Before she left Chicago, they had friends. My oldest brother and one of her friends' daughters got married, and that's how they became so close. And they used to, do things together. I remember having block parties growing up in the city. I also remember, I'm going to go revert back to Chicago when I was growing up between the age I was and 13. I remember the block parties. I remember people getting together and having rent parties. Uh, the old people would let us go out. If you had a backyard, you go out in the backyard and the kids would play. The adults would be in the house. We wouldn't be up under our parents being nosy or listening to every damn thing they say now or do. Uh, kids would be kids. You know, you grew up with respect. You grew up thinking that you were loved as a child. Yeah, there was drama going on in families, but it was at a minimum that I can remember. So my brother married my mom's friend's daughter. They became close. They were like sisters. And then when we moved to the country, lo and behold, they moved to the country. So that's how our family unit was. That's how people were. That's I call them my family. They are my family. I had a Aunt Bit. I had a Uncle John. I had an auntie. Her name was really Anna Mae. And I had an Uncle Cliff. The people that were there for my mom when my dad wasn't at home because my dad was on the road driving truck. The people that were there for us as kids growing up when mama wasn't feeling good, they would cook and have us over to the house to eat. And they also babysitted us. And that's and there was no questions or things done to us as kids growing up that makes me shame to feel that I was abused or misused or touched. Never, never, never. Now, as I grew older, like I said, I learned to drive there in the country. But there was a friend of mine, and we've been friends for over 70, damn near 70 years. We went to school together from kindergarten, graduated together from high school, were married, our kids were born. His name is Russell. Russell and I, what can I say about Russell is that he's a friend that no matter what we did we get into mischief? Yeah, we got into mischief. But there was also that respect for one another. Uh, I got your back, you got my back. Hell, and that's the truth. When he got into a fight in school, I was in there with him. When I got into a fight, he was there. But it wasn't about the fighting or anything. It was about having somebody to talk to and to tell things to and your secrets and stuff. And I'll never tell the secrets that he told me. And to this day, he has never told the secrets that I have told him about things. But I'm saying all this to say that here on YouTube, we forget when we get mad with one another, we go back and we talk about one another. Like I said, it's a cornucopia of people on here. And what hurts me the most is when I think about the women on here, the way that they talk to each other and treat each other. I didn't grow up around women like that. I wasn't raised around women like that. I was raised around women that took care of their families, took care of their kids. And mind you, we didn't have the internet, so no. We had telephones, but that's another story on them telephones about gossiping and stuff. But at an early age, I my voice changed. It started changing really at 15, and it got deeper at 16. And I'll never forget this. One day, my dad was on the road, and he called my mom at home, and I answered the phone. Hello, who is this? I laughed, and I just gave my mama the phone right quick. I could hear my daddy through that phone. Who in the hell is at that house? Mama said, well, I got a surprise for you. That was your son. His voice done changed. He said, put him on again. I got on the phone with him. Hello, Daddy. Yeah, it's me. He said, boy, what's wrong? What are you doing? I had nothing. I woke up like this morning. And from the age, from that age on up until now, I've been speaking like this and talking like this all my life. Was it a good thing for a young man's voice to change at such an early age? For me, now that I look back on it, yes, and then no. Because I used to be in school and I'd be trying to say something and I'd be damn, my teacher would know it was me talking. I couldn't whisper. I didn't have the control of lowering my voice low enough to whisper enough. But even if I whispered, it was still deep and she knew what I was the one in class whispering. I couldn't say anything, you know, be funny like other cut up kids in the class. So was it a hindrance to me growing up in school? Yeah, but then again, no, because I was a novelty back then. I realized that my voice was different than a lot of other young boys my age voices was, and I took advantage of it. Let me tell you, I did take advantage of it. And let me tell you, ladies out there, if you got a son and he's got a deep voice, you know that the women are going to love him. Okay. So let's admit that your guys, your man, I know some ladies love deep voices and it amazes me that when a man has a deep voice, they're more adaptive, attract people, and people will listen to them even more. They'll listen to him even tell a story like I'm trying to do here. But I like I said, things happen to me in my life with this voice that sometimes I regret, but sometimes I love. Uh, to this day, I never told my mom or know, the story about her friend and her son. You know, and being a young man out there coming into my curiosity stage, I used to, I would be a fool to say that I never loved a woman or never had girlfriends. I had the girlfriends, like I said, the boys did it. A lot of times it wasn't for real. It was just so they could be around somebody that spoke like I did or sounded like I did. Other times it was because some women just wanted to try to teach me. And when I mean teach me, I mean teach me sexually. Let's face it, We talk about old men prowling on young women. There were back in the day, and even now, there are some old women that crave young men. Uh, we can talk about that, why and how come later on, but those things in life do happen, people, you know. So I'm not going to sit up here and say I've never had anybody except around my age, because that's a lie. I, confession, slept with my mom's friend. Okay. Uh, at the age of 13, this woman was what? No, 16. She was 16, 40. Might as well say 40, almost 50 years my senior. But she was a beautiful black woman. She wasn't white. She wasn't Italian. She wasn't Mexican. She was a beautiful black woman. She was single, widowed, single, whatever. And it just happened. Like I said, I was 16 and feeling my oats and Cheerios, trying to be a man out there. I started working at a slash restaurant, bar, tavern type of place out there. And on the weekends, I would spin records and I would use my voice. That's how I made my money at 16. While a lot of guys and kids were working in the fields on the farmland and all that, I was at home with my mom learning to cook and clean. And then on the weekends, I would go to this jug joint, as they want to call it back in the day, and spin records. And back then, $200 just for 2 nights, that was a lot of money, and especially for me at my age. So that's how I earned my money. That's how I learned that I learned about people. I studied people. I looked at people. Now, I looked at couples. I looked at men and women as couples, as singles. Uh, Later on in life, I did meet someone. I did meet someone. But from the age of 16 through 19, I was wild as a buck deer because I thought I was grown. My mom, she kept me on the wraps. And when my dad got home, oh, I can remember getting a lot of whoopings from my daddy because he knew what I was out there trying to do, but he told me, no, that doesn't make a man. It doesn't make a man. And until you get a wife and learn how to raise a family, then you're not a man yet. You're just out there sowing your oats, as the old folks would say. Yeah, I was sowing my oats, but I was also still under my parents' roof. That's another thing. Living under your parents' roof, there are rules and regulations you have to revive, you have to abide by. And my parents were strict. When they told us to come in the house, we came in the house. When they told us to go to bed, we went to bed. If we didn't do our homework, there was no television. We didn't have things like these kids got now, modernized stuff. Our entertainment was being out in the yard, playing in the fresh sunshine, swinging on trees, even going to a little swimming hole, which I thought I was too good to swim, so I never did get too wet because I had to. I don't know. It was just something about me going diving off in the water, stuff like that, and then getting wet coming back home. Now, I didn't do that too much, but I love to fish. That's another tale I'll be reiterating about. But as I was saying, growing up as a child at 16, 17, 18, I learned the value of caring for people. My dad, he was Catholic. My mother was Baptist. So they gave us a choice. Things weren't forced upon us like some people force things upon their kids. My dad was, like I said, Catholic. My mother was Baptist. So I was mean with mama all the time. we went to a Baptist church. My baby brother, he decided to become Catholic later on in life, but that was after, way after years and years later. But we had choices. We had things that other kids didn't have. We had that love, we had that peace. I learned to drive, and I learned to drive with a farm all tractor. Me and Russell's grandparents, they lived out there. They had a farm, and we would get out there. It was an old farm all with the hand crank in the front. We crank it up, hop up there on the seat, and we drive the tractor around in the fields when it wasn't during the fall of the year when all the crops were in and you could drive the tractor. I learned to drive a tractor then, but sooner or later, I wanted to drive a car. So we took grandpa's truck. We took his grandpa's truck. And the old truck was an old Ford, and it was a 3 speed Ford, and the old gear shift in the collar, what they call 3 speed in the collar. You pull back and down, and then up, straight up, and then down for third. And you had the clutch and all that. I doubt if a modern dude would really know how to drive a car with a clutch in it now, unless, like I said, they were born and raised like that. Um, we drove sticks, what we call stick shifts, and I remember learning how to drive a stick shift. Oh, I thought I was big shit then. I was what, going on 15 and getting out there. And at the age of 16, my dad would leave the car at home sometime, and he would bring his truck home, leave the car, and the car is there. And we would take the car and drive off in the car, but we didn't steal it in a way because he knew what I was doing. He knew that if he left his car at home, his son was going to find a way to get into it. Mind you, I'm the oldest now. I'm the oldest child. I'm a boy. I had another brother. He was close to my age, but he never did get into the stuff that I got into because, like I said, with my voice the way it is now and the way it was then, I was able to be around a lot of adult people. I hung around older people, and trying to be a kid, but with an old man's voice was a dilemma for me. But I did have my fun, like I said. I learned to drive. I went and did things other kids did, went fishing, all that stuff. Went to school, graduated from high school, all that good stuff. But I'm just saying this right now because I just feel like speaking on part of my history growing up as a young man. I don't feel that I owe anybody in this world anything except respect and love, and especially the people that taught me the respect and love. And it wasn't just only my parents, it's been other people out there that were friends with my mom and dad, with me, around me. Like I said, even my best friend Russell, his parents, they were good. My mom's friend, Miss Anna Mae, and Uncle Johnny, Bit, and all of them, they were good to us children. And they had their fun, but they also loved us as kids. I really want to talk about maybe later on. I'll come back and do something else because right now I gave you all a mouthful and an earful about stuff, and you can take it for what it is and what it's worth. But like I said, when I came up here on YouTube, I should have realized times have changed, things are different, people are different. I was raised to care about people and their feelings, their emotions. And as I went through life, there's a lot of things that happened not only to me and my friends, but my family members. And yeah, I'm a sensitive guy. Old as my ass is, I've always been sensitive. I remember the year that I was in high school, we had a sit down strike because the high school I went to was predominantly white. The town was white where the high school was. And they 63, they we wanted black studies. So me with my bad ass, I decided I'm going to sit it out. I'm not going to class that day. I talked a couple of friends of mine into it. Russell was one of them, his sister, and a few more people that we had to ride the buses to get to their school, their high school, from where we lived at, because St. Anne was about maybe 7 miles from Hopkins Park. You had to take the gravel road. There was no uh, blacktop, as we called it, until you got out toward going toward St. Anne. Their roads were paved and everything into the town. But the high school was there, and it was during the time of Martin Luther King, and uh, a lot of shit was going on in between the years 61, 62, and 63. I was 13 years old when we had presidential assassination. When Martin Luther died, Bobby Kennedy died. It seems like to me back then that they were killing off people that they wanted black people to have something. They wanted black people to be equal and everything else. That's how I felt about it. I also knew about the Black Panthers. I knew about the Black Peace Stone Rangers and all that. That's another story that I could get into, why my dad moved us out of the city, because he seen those things. He had been around those kind of people, and he didn't want his kids to grow up in that type of environment. So he moved us out to a place where he thought we were going to be safe. He thought that he could raise his kids and show them that there's just more to life than being out in the streets every day or every night. Getting your homework done, getting a good, proper education, being able to speak in a way to where people would understand you. Because, mind you, him being a Jamaican, his English wasn't really English good because, like I said, he always kept up with his native tongue. He spoke Jamaican. He could speak fluent Jamaican. So, but his kids were born in a country to where it was entirely different from where he was born at. Even a lot of black people didn't associate like he said his relatives and stuff did over in the old country. But I could, I just I can't phantom it or imagine it because I'd never been there. I've seen the pictures. We've all heard about Jamaica. Everybody loves Jamaica, but there is a darker side of Jamaica that some people can't see because I looked it up. And there's a dark side, just like it is here in the United States. There's dark sides of different countries everywhere. But as far as me going and saying once again that it's all about the YouTube stuff. It's all about the way we talk to each other here on YouTube and the things that we do on YouTube as black people. And I'm trying to equate how did I get involved in such a, I want to, I really want to say mediocre, but it's not mediocre. It's just a part of life. after I grew up and got older, because hell, I wasn't into all this kind of stuff. I was interested. I was working. I was doing different stuff. And I'll bring you up to par on that. But right now, I just want to say there are some things sometimes when I listen to YouTube now, I just wonder, but I don't have to wonder because I realize that some of the people that I listen to, I'm 20 years their senior. You see what I'm saying? And being even at 20 years older than them, they haven't been through the trials and tribulations of life that I have. Uh, they'll sit up here and say things to one another because times changed and words are being put out there like the N word and all that. We lost our respect far as disrespect. We lost our respect for respecting one another. People that get out there and hustle and try to do good. People that try to raise their kids the right way compared to those that don't want to raise their kids at all. You know, I know life has changed. Yeah, we had bad mothers back then too, but we also had big mamas. We did have the big mamas. We had the people that would take care of our kids. We had people that would come see how you were doing as a neighbor. You know, we basically stuck together at a time when our leaders were being assassinated. Our leaders were being cut down. Somebody we had a dream in, somebody we looked up to. Like I said, Martin was one. Stokely Carmichael another. H. Rap Brown. I wonder how many people remember H. Rap Brown. I'll do a piece on him one day and see if you guys remember. Angela Davis, Black Panther Party. All those things that really, when the people of the city of Chicago and even out there in California and all that, they had branches. When black people tried to do good, they found a way and used the law to their advantage and change things. I hear young people talk about Emmett Till. I was 5 years old when that happened. We lived in Chicago. Went to the funeral. But I was so young that it didn't equate to me because number one, mom didn't let me look inside. I had to look at the pictures from the Jet magazine. It didn't equate to me. It didn't equate to me then. But that day, I can remember being there at that church, at that place, and the black people that the gathering and the words that were being said, and people crying, complete strangers crying because a mother had lost her child so violently. And yet we take that same tragedy today and use it to mock our own people, our own black people. We use that same tragedy to make fun of a person with their looks and everything. That's why I'm praying right now to God to let me continue on and make sense about what I'm trying to say to people out there on these YouTube streets. I can't imagine. I can't imagine a lot of things, but one thing I can't imagine a lot more than people realize: losing a parent after you're an adult, that's heartbreaking. Losing a child as a parent is even more devastating. Just losing someone that you truly care about is devastating because we can't accept death. We can't accept it. Everybody wants to live, but nobody wants to die. Yeah, they say they're ready and all this good stuff, but nobody wants to die. Let's admit it. I'm not going to go in and get morbid on stuff, but I just want to say, as Black people, I wish, I wish before I pass away that I might see another march on Washington. I might see people gathered together fighting these crooked politicians, fighting the crooked system, building up their residents again, becoming better. We've had it all, people. We're still bankers, but we're not bankers. We're still owners, business owners, but we're not business owners because we have lost that pride that a man could once or a woman could once have when they own something. We try to sit up now and tear each other down when somebody has a business. You know, we get out here and, like they say, we're gangster keyboarders and all this bullshit. We're behind the scenes talking about people, going finding out information because the man has put it out there for you to use. If you would use that information against the other races and Anglos and stuff like that, as they say, against them like we do against ourselves, I guarantee you they would shut you down in a heartbeat. But as long as we continue to make fun of one another, mocks one another, docks one another, and tell lies on one another here on these apparatuses, things won't get any better. They locked us now for a whole year, and you've seen the end results now. Inflation, things are higher, people are scuffling, and you got those that come out and they're mad at the world because they done lost that oomph, that get up and go. You know, don't let don't let that little pocket change fool you. Look at what you're making off of it. Far as that go, if it wasn't for these cash apps and stuff now that we do to support one another, we wouldn't be really earning any money on here, and you know it. You know it. You got to have a business that's thriving. You got to have a business that Black people support. You got to have the capital in order to make it work. Now, there I go off rambling, thinking about something else. But my thoughts on YouTube is that it sucks right now for me. Sometimes I hear a lot of good things. Sometimes I hear a lot of bad things. But it's mostly been bad for me these last 2.5 weeks. And I'll continue listening, but I'm going to also start commenting on it, the good, the bad, as well as the ugly. And in the interim, my story is going to slide up in there too, because it's history. It's my history. It's not anybody else's history. If you dox me and come up here and say some bullshit and lie about it, I'm going to let you know. When I drop down in chats, you want to talk to me about something sensible, we can do that. If you want to ask me something stupid, I'll give you a stupid answer. If you want to lie, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you the truth. Why I did it, how come, and what for. But as a man, and I'm going to say this once again, as a man, men on YouTube, you got to start doing better too. We as men on YouTube, we got to start doing better. It doesn't make it right for you, me, or anybody else just because we hear our women call each other the B word and the H word and all that, that we have to do it. We don't have to do it. It's not the norm. Using the N word is something that was the something disgraceful, and they used it against us. They called us that N word. They hung us with that N word. They raped our women with that N word. Yeah, I said the word. They raped our black women with using that N word. But somewhere along the line, it became fashionable for us to start calling each other that. I don't know, people. I really don't know. The only thing I'm going to say is that maybe when I come up here and speak, I'll try to hold my temper in, hold my younger days in, because yeah, I was a whippersnapper in the younger days. Yeah, I was. Because times had changed so vastly until I had to fight to survive. Because when the drugs start hitting not only the big cities, hell, it hit the country. It hit the country streets. And if you wanted to have something, you had to fight to keep it. People would want to rob and steal from you. People would want to use you because they were hooked on stuff. It went from what? Heroin to cocaine to crack. Now we got the amphetamines and all that bullcrap nowadays. People are smoking more readily, burning up the brain cells quicker. But it's all right. It's all right, because if we look around, and the world itself today is not getting any better. It's getting worse to a degree to where something drastic is going to happen. It's going to change. People will be bowing down on their knees and begging God for forgiveness, because right now, the way I feel, the world is owned by the devil. He was cast upon this earth from heaven, not to rule, but just to be mischievous. And if your mind and heart is weak, you're going to follow that sucker. We have all followed him. I don't care what nobody says. Nobody's perfect. No, not even me. But I can atone for mine. And like I said, I'm not going to let you lie on me about something I know I didn't do. If you're going to tell it, tell the truth. Because if you don't, I'm going to do just like that other side of the man would do. If you didn't tell the truth on him, they'd have you sitting up in court. That's what they done taught me throughout my life. Like I said, I worked in the Department of Corrections. That's no lie. If you want to look it up, look it up. But don't lie on me. I worked both sides. I was in both sides. I was working and I was also in there. And don't lie on me why I was about what I was in there for. When I get ready to tell you why I was in there, I'll let you know. But I'm not ashamed of it. A lot of things people get on here and they try to reiterate what felons can and cannot do. Do your homework, people. Laws have changed. Laws have changed. Do your homework. And when you choose not to do something, let it be your choice. Don't let it be somebody else's choice. When you choose to get on here and say how you feel about something, you don't do it just to go along with the crowd. I made that mistake and I paid for it. I also made the mistake of trying to be something that everybody else wanted me to be except for myself. But that's another tale too that I'll tell you about as far as men go, me being a man. Because when I love somebody, I love them wholeheartedly. But you don't, as my better half, try to tell me about somebody else and how they do. I need to do like they do. No, I don't need to, honey. As long as I'm taking care of you and loving you, and we got a roof over our head, and we got food, and our health is together, we don't need to worry about any outside people, none whatsoever. There's an old saying, the grass is green on the other side, but you got to realize that grass also has weeds in it, and you got to cut that damn grass. You just can't hop over there and be contented with it. You're going to have to keep it mowed, keep the weeds out of it. Sometimes it's best not even to have grass, but that's another thing, a thought in my head. But I'm gonna let you guys know I love life. I'm still gonna continue to enjoy life, but I'm gonna come up here maybe every once a week, every 2 weeks, let you know what I've heard and seen out there on the YouTube and if I like it or not. And there are some people now that I have been listening to today. Like I said, Lady Nika and Faith Yaya, well really Faith Yaya, on your platform today, you gave that woman some beautiful advice about letting her people know, and don't give up. Don't ever give up. That was beautiful. Those are the kind of things that touch my heart as a man when I hear women talking to other women about being positive with life, wanting to live, wanting to do things. Lady Nika spoke upon her having her lupus and her veins and all this and infusions and stuff. I knew a lady just like you, Lady Nika. That's why I don't know. She had lupus and she passed away in her 40s, but she was a beautiful person. You know, live life to the fullest, but don't live life to where you can't live. You see what I'm saying? Myself, my health is, yeah, for the man at 74, I'm good. I can't run like I used to, but like Lady Nika and Yaya was talking about, I'm a Jamaican man. I am not no, let's just put it this way. I'm my father's child. And he had kids plumb up until he was 60 some years old. So Let that let that be a lesson to you. Stephanie, good evening to you, dear. Like I'm trying to right now. Just be myself. And so all these false innuendos and things that people put out here about me, I'm not gonna do anything but take it to my attorney and let him deal with it. Let y'all see the outcome of it. Because we as black people, we gotta fight. We gotta fight. I'm just speaking for real. Life is too short to be out here just whittling it away right now. We do have hope, people. We can build those towns that black people once thrived in. We can have another Black Wall Street. We can have another beautiful, beautiful Tulsa, Oklahoma. Look up the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Rosewood, all them places. We can do it, but we have to respect one another. God, we have to respect one another. And for you, like I said, you young men on here on YouTube, I am old enough to be some of you guys' fathers, but I'm not going to get up here and argue with you anymore about what you know that is wrong. If I tell you it's wrong, it's wrong. If you want to cuss me out about it, move on down the road. Like I said, I just hope and pray that you get to be the age I am and go through life learning as you reach this age that I've gotten and be able to go back and tell things, but you'll never be able to talk about having to go to the back of a bus, having to drink out of a separate water fountain, having to go around to the back of a theater to go into the show, to the movie show. You'll never be able to talk about being called the N word by other people, other races, and you couldn't do anything about it. But yet you want to get mad when they do it now, and you're the ones that's constantly using it. To me, it's not a term of endearment. It'll never be a term of endearment. It's in our music. It's in the music that they allowed us to put out there like that so they could make the money. They could make the money. And we went along with it. Like I said, everybody wants to hear about love songs. Everybody wants to hear the good old days songs. They talk about them more than they do the rap artists. Look at them now, where they're at and what they're doing. I listened to them too, coming up back in the day, but I really didn't play them. I really didn't go overboard for them like that. Not when it came to disgracing women. Not when it came to disgracing our own self worth. No, no, I didn't listen. I heard it, but I didn't listen to it because my mom, my sisters, my daughters are not dogs. Which what a bitch is a dog. So that song about a woman being a man's bitch should have never came out in the first place. To my liking. How can you love something and you call it a bitch every day? Women, how can you love one another and respect one another as a woman, calling each other a bitch every day? People don't like hearing that kind of rhetoric, as they say, but I said it tonight. I'll say it again. I don't need to do that to y'all. I don't need to do it. I hear men on here. Well, if she does this to a man, well, man got every right. No, you got every right to be a man. You can talk to her as a woman. Call her anything but a bee and a hoe. Eh, Call her a witch. Maybe she's got a spell on you. Maybe she'd have put a spell on you. That's why you acted like that. But thank you guys that came up here to listen and see me for a few minutes. I know it didn't make any sense, but like I said, this is going to be about my history. And I'll tell you about me being in the service. I'll tell you about me being in the working in the prison system, and when it comes to our jobs and stuff. So, but never been a stalker, never been a P. Always and will forever love the opposite sex, female, women, mothers. Okay, don't get mad with me, ladies, and call me a faggot or a sissy and none of that stuff, because I've never been with a man. Don't take it out on me, because I'm not going to take it out on you. And I've had some dirt done to me in my lifetime, but I still respect them. Trust me, I really do. With that being said, thank you all for coming up tonight. Like, subscribe, and definitely comment in the comment section, people, if you do a replay. And I will be seeing you on these YouTube streets. And hey, Dr. Soapy, tonight, thank you. You calmed me down a little bit with your music. I also see Miss Pizarro out there playing music too. Like I said, hey, maybe I can take credit for that. No, I can't take credit for that because people were playing music before I got there. It just so happens that I love playing music a lot, and I'm gonna get back to that too. And I thank you guys that subscribe to me with my music. And like I said, I'm an old school man. When I mean old school, I mean old school. I can go back to the 30s and 40s even because they were still playing music back then. People like Lena Horne, Fats Domino, Harry Belafonte. Shit. Yeah, I can do it. I can do it. I'll be there for you guys whenever you want to get away from all the yuck stuff. Maybe next time I'll have a drop the link and have you come up here and give me some questions, ask me some questions and answers. But please, I'm imploring you, you guys know I have something going on, and if I think it's near that, I'm going to just say no comment. I can't talk about that. Okay. Mixology. Thank you, dear. Yes, reprieve is needed. Thank you for coming up, sweetheart. I just seen you in the chat. And like I said, I ain't yep, yep. There you are. She said hello, Gil. Oh, you said hello to her already. Yeah, I tried not to look at the chat while I was talking or rambling with myself about my history and my life. But I'm just gonna get back to having fun and like I said, doing what I love to do best, and that's play my music and hell, if they let me do it, they do. If they don't, I'll find another means or another way, so people can get away from all the uck shit, as I say. talk about health or anything. Talk about a woman going through the change. Even a man goes through the change. There's a lot of things men and women can talk about together as a couple or even as people, far as their ideology about one another, what made them, why do they think that all people are the same? We're not all the same. We're not all the same. Our thoughts, our hearts, our ideas are not all the same. You know, if I can really agree to disagree with you, and you can agree to disagree with me, well, hell, let's just move on and try to make up something better. Let's do something else. Let's show the world that hey, we can get along. And guys, let's be more protective of our women, okay? If you see something wrong out there in the streets, talk to them. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to, hey, step up. We're all going to go. I'd rather go protecting a woman's life than to go than trying to sell a bag of dope. That's all I'm going to say. With that, you guys, good night. I love you. And thank you, Miguel, for being up here. Oh, okay. I got you, mixology. Well, I've been leaving my music up. So from day one. Wow. Yeah. All right. Good night. Peace and love to you, mixology. And I will see you over there, dear. Thank you for the advice. Good night, y'all. Take care. See you on the YouTube streets.